Please click the subscribe button and the notification icon. It will help us a lot.
Hi, this is Rodrigo from Frame Freak Studio, and this is the Creative Hustler Show. Today's guest is Nicola Huang, who is an amazing illustrator who has worked for Disney Channel, digital media design. Pretty much, she has a diploma of digital media design. She has worked for a lot of studios. She's been freelancing. She's even been pretty much she has been working in a zoo, taking care of cat, dogs, and even a duckling. And like, she's a really amazing illustrator when it comes to drawing animals. And if I read all the things that she has done, pretty much I will never end. So I just want to say, welcome, Nicola.
Thank you. Buenas noches. Is that how I say it? Buenas noches? Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Good evening.
Well,
I'm very
right now,
bad with languages.
Right now is day here, but I have the curtains closed because all the sun will fall in my face.
Well, buenas noches from Singapore, because it is now 11:07 p.m. So I'm in the future.
Nice. So for the people who don't know about you, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? How did you decided to go into art, and pretty much how did you make this jump into like going to zoos and pretty much taking care of animals and then putting it all together?
I know it sounds very complicated, but I'm pretty sure I started off the way all the other artists started. You know, it starts with a cartoon, it starts with a book, and you know, just completely mesmerized by why I used to see. And my parents were very sort of good with giving me all the material. So I grew up on things from Hanna-Barbera to Disney to the older things like UPA cartoons. And it also helps that my first love has always been animals. I've always found a deep connection with animals. I think it's because I'm very sort of introverted, and I find a deeper connection with animals than I do with people. So it all started from there, and just observing animals and wanting to capture their movements and their characteristics, and watching cartoons, especially those like Warner Brothers. And I saw, well, I can interpret them this way, and they're always so full of life. And I get to, you know, put them in any scenario that I want. And because living in Singapore and growing up in Singapore, it's a very, the educational system is very stringent, very strict. And I came from a very sort of, a very stern sort of Protestant school background, where everything was very relegated, because Singapore, you know, depends on a skilled workforce. So everyone had to make sure you had perfect grades. And I am the last person, I can tell you. I am the worst academic you could ever imagine. I was that weird child sitting in a corner doing nothing but doodling. And drawing for me was my escape, because that was the only time I could express myself. Although I will tell you, I failed art throughout almost all the years of my schooling. I failed art until maybe I hit secondary school, and that's your version of a high school, I think. And once I got out of high school, secondary school, I just wanted nothing to do with academia, nothing. I just wanted to do everything that I wanted. And I knew that I wanted to be involved with cartoons somehow, some way. And that frightened everybody, especially here in a very Asian-y background, where they're wondering, you know, about my life choices. Because first of all, I wanted to be a cartoonist. And I thought, well, if I can't be a cartoonist, I want to work in a zoo. And neither of those things sound very good to anybody in this country. But I really wanted it. So instead of going through the rest of the academic sort of path that most people in this country would have, I jumped onto doing this animation course that was happening at Nanyang Polytechnic. And I did that for 3 years. And that's where I found that there are people who are exactly like me, who love cartoons, who love movies, and love every aspect of it, and are passionate about it. And that's really what started me going, and meeting all these very talented young people and wonderful lecturers. And you know, immediately after that, instead of going into university, I got accepted to do an apprenticeship all the way in Vancouver. And that was in Atomic Studios, and they were doing Atomic Betty, and they were doing Car Talk at the time. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I just thought to myself, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I just knew that this is what I wanted forever and ever. It's just that then eventually I have to come back to Singapore because of, you know, work visas and all that sort of thing. And I did have a job sort of waiting for me back here. And that was at a company where I did my very first internship while I was at school. And that's where reality hit me very hard. You find out that it's not all, you know, rainbows and butterflies, and you find out that there is an ugly side to it all. It was the most harrowing experience I'd ever had, and I grew up very fast in that environment. For over 2 years, I worked crazy hours, and I had ridiculous workloads, and even my colleagues were very disheartened, and I found out that the culture was very different from what I was used to. And it just wasn't good. And I think at one point, even my own father looked at me when I came home and he said, "You look soulless, absolutely soulless. You have to get out." And it took a lot of courage for me to, you know, to go up to my employer and say, "I quit." Because saying I quit is never a nice thing. It's almost as if I was saying I was giving up. And to think that I worked so hard to get to where I was, it was just such a harrowing experience. And I remember till this day, because on the last day of my work, after I packed up everything from my desk, I was told, and these were almost the exact words, they said, "You will never have it good anywhere else as you have it here." And I left with this feeling that I was inadequate, that all that I thought that I was good at was not good enough. And that eventually brought me in. I eventually went to Sydney for a short while. I needed a break. Nothing to do with animation. I was completely just defeated at that point. And it was a very low point in my life. And I just thought, well, then I'll go on to my second love, which was animals. So I did that for a long time. And that's where I got back my joy of art and drawing. Yeah, every day I was with animals and wonderful people, and we were doing good. And at the same time, when I had all this free time, when I wasn't walking them, feeding them, cleaning them, and rehabilitating this duckling that had imprinted on me, I had my little sketchbook, and every day I'd sit there and just draw everything, the animals, the people, and the beautiful environment that it was in. And I got back my love of drawing. And I found out that once I got that love back, I didn't have to think so much. And that's when the work started coming in again. Of all things, I found myself in Australia, Sydney, in New South Wales, just getting random jobs from people that were coming into the animal shelter going, "You draw things?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And they went, "Well, would you do this for me? Would you do that for me?" Everything from designing mascots to, you know, to advertisements. And I thought, why not? And that was my first taste of freelancing. And I thought, well, this is fantastic. In the daytime, I can look after animals up till 5 o'clock. And at night, I go home and I draw. And that just brought me to all sorts of places. I was going to, you know, to Byron Bay and to Vanuatu, to all these funny places, which I never thought I would go to. And, you know, and I was sort of finding my voice again. And the biggest step for me, however, was to take the big leap. And that was to go to WonderCon in San Francisco. And I remember this because I was terrified. And I told myself, if I'm going to meet all these fantastically talented people, most of them who are my heroes, mind you, you know, like Steven Silva and Pascal Campion. And I thought, I'm going to go up to them with whatever I have, and I'm going to see whether I was right, you know, or I was wrong, whether my former employers were right, that I was bad, that I had no sense of design whatsoever. And I thought, I'm going to try. Anyway, so I went to WonderCon with the most rinky-dink looking bag, zip-up bag, because I didn't even have a proper portfolio. I had a rinky-dink zip-up bag where I shoved in all this artwork that I had, and none of it was industry work. None of it was the stuff that I worked on for Nickelodeon and Disney Channel at that company. It was all just shoved into this bag, all this personal work, and I went with my savings to San Francisco, to the WonderCon, and I just tried showing it around. And because I'm so shy and so reserved, I had to learn how to speak up and say, would you please look at my work? And it was a mess, but I was lucky because all those people were so lovely. And I think the turning point for me was also, I found this portfolio review that was being held for a comic company called Aspen Comics. And I knew it. I thought, oh my God, I love Aspen Comics. I used to read things like Fathom, and I was such a fan. And I thought, well, would I be crazy enough to try out for this? And I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I used all my savings to go to this place. I'm going to try it. And the queue was around the block. All these wonderfully talented people, mind you, I was there with this, I don't know what I was holding on to. And there were all these people in line with me with professional portfolios and wonderful, gorgeously rendered artwork. And I thought, I'm doomed. Why did I even do this? What made me think that I could do this? I was freaking out until it was my turn. And I thought, well, it's too late. I've waited here for almost 3 hours. I'm going to do this. Oh God. And I went in with my zip up bag and I looked so grubby. I had a Harry Potter sweatshirt and a bowler hat, which I bought on impulse at WonderCon because the man told me it would make me look dapper. And I sort of accidentally, in my nervousness, dropped the portfolio onto the table in front of the CEO. And I went, hi, this is my work. And I was lucky that he was lovely. At the time, it was CEO Vince Hernandez. And he was so kind to me. And he was lovely. And he gave me such positive feedback. And next thing you know it, he's going, would you design comic covers for us? And I was amazed. So I think that was really the turning point. That was where I found out that, yes, I could go into this, US international market, that I was good enough, and from there, people directed me to CTN and everything just skyrocketed from there. I met all these wonderful people at CTN, like you said, Casey and Nick, and so many wonderful people that just have brought me to where I am today. And I couldn't be more grateful. I'm just so thankful that I get to do what I do. And I'm happy again and loving what I do. And I could not ask for anything more. I really couldn't. Yeah.
I really understand a lot of what you say. Like, even though the experiences have been a little bit different, I think there is a lot of similarities in what I've gone through and what all my team have gone through as well. To give you an idea, well, we are from El Salvador, a third world country, and even now, it's like we don't have a really good art schools or things like that. So, for example, these interviews for me have been my university, my college, like learning from people. and yeah, like I was the same kid drawing in the class and getting a lot of problems for it. I pretty much had to do a lot of we call it here nivellation courses, which is pretty much when you failed a class and you have to take an extra month to try to adapt to that.
I understand
grade.
that.
And yeah, pretty much I've been doing that since I went through 7th grade. And something that happened to me similar to you is that, and this is, I think, a mistake that I did, that for me, drawing was my way of relaxing, of pretty much keeping all the stress off. And then I went to college thinking that I will make this my way of living and work, and met some really horrible teachers there
no.
Like they were really trying to break people. They will leave like incredible workloads. I had friends who pretty much slept while they were driving and crashed, and luckily they survived. But but it was like really bad. I know people who had pretty much health issues from that college, and who will never be able to fix, and that made the art that I did not the way that I got off stress, but the way I got the stress. So after that, I I was never able to draw again, but now I'm helping my
No,
friends
I
who are artists.
understand, of course, and because art is such an emotional thing, it's going to reflect how you're feeling. So obviously, if you are not into the work that you're doing, it's going to show, and people are going to know it, and it's nothing that you can hide. Obviously, I mean, it's just right there in front of everybody, and
Yeah,
people can tell.
yeah, and well, I had a similar experience as well as the soulless job,
Hmm.
but it was in a call center, and I was only able to last 6 months, and
Oh.
and the reason why I quit, and I quit without having anything else like a backup plan. I just did it because at the moment I was having serious thoughts of like, okay, I'm going to go up into this building into the parking lot, and I'm going to jump from there
Oh
into the front
no,
of the
that's
building so I could
horrible.
at the same time create my publicity for this thing. And that
Oh,
was like, okay, this is insane. I have to get out of here. but
yeah, I'm glad
but
you did.
yeah, but here's the thing that I'm not glad that it happened to that extreme. But at the same time, now when I face like really hard moments, let's call it, into what we do, it is like I can go and make this question of, is this as bad as it was back then? And the answer is always no. Hell no.
Yeah.
Like this is way much better, and that helps to push through your dream, I think.
It does. It really does. I think I mean, after what I had experienced before, anything that I have now, whether it's a difficult client or a job that's driving me up the wall, I always think back with, you look back and you go, well, compared to where I was before, where I really, really didn't like what I was doing, I am so much better off. I'm a lot happier. So I can understand.
On the spirit of this is a question that I make to find out the things that I don't know that I don't know, and because I think those are the trickiest things to find and can be the hardest problem. So, what was something that you didn't expect at all into going into this world of art that you find out and that you think that is really really important?
Well, for me, I guess this is from a personal point of view. I found that things just really, don't go the way you plan them. You have this idea when you're at school that everything's going to go the way it should, and all of a sudden the rug is just pulled out from under your feet, and you could either just be stuck in that situation, or you could just move on. So that was one thing I was terrified of, because funny enough, one thing I used to be horrified about was change. I used to be so scared of change. And it turns out that that was the one thing that I had to learn, and it's become important to become adaptable and flexible, and to just keep moving forward, that it's so much better to move somewhere. It might not be where you want to go, but it's at least you're going somewhere. So that was a hard learning curve for me, but it was good all the same. And I'd like to think that I'm better for knowing that and for learning that. I hope.
Yeah, I think that is really important, like in art entrepreneurship or even in technical industries. The thing that happens a lot is that you don't know what is going to happen next. Like the industry is always evolving, and it's evolving really, really, really fast, and way faster
Yes.
than I thought. And yeah, I think it is really hard for people who cannot find that in them, like to be able to adapt and to be able to leave behind things that work for them in the past but
Mhm.
don't work anymore. I think that is one of the hardest things, but it has to be done, right?
It does. It does. And I guess it also helps that I have all these very different jobs. And I don't, instead of just, I'm used to being an illustrator and a character designer, but I've had to take on all these other jobs where I'm doing installations for events, and Just as an example, last year, I was asked to help with the Tiffany & Co.'s paper flower launch party. And they went, well, you're an artist, so we need you to spray paint, because the theme was graffiti. And they went, so we need you to spray paint all the stuff all over the walls. And I went, okay, I guess I could do that. So I had to learn how to get a proper graffiti can and spray, and do proper writing on the wall and everywhere. And that was also a really interesting experience for me. But you know what? It's something I had to learn, and I had to learn it within a week and do it properly on the day itself, because there were people watching, and just hope that the client was happy. But that's what you've got to do when the job calls for it. And it may not have been, my best work, but it's something I get to talk about, and it's an experience and a lesson that I got to learn. And so I could only be happy about it in the end.
Yes, definitely. I think you're the right person to ask this question, but I have a couple of friends who are like what I consider like truly amazing artists, and they are young, but for example, I got them these opportunities to pretty much give a workshop about some topics in art, because and I'm, even though like you see me happy and all that, like I'm not the kind of person who is going to give those kinds of opportunities to people who I think that they are still lacking in something. Like if I give an opportunity to somebody, it's because I know they can handle that and way more.
Sure.
And they freak out, like they were very insecure about their art. They were not well, one of them did it, even though she was really freaking out bad, but at the end she did it, and found out that it was okay, that everybody loved her art and everybody loved her teachings, but the other one like completely freaked out and bailed on us. And she is a really amazing artist. Like, she's really young, but she didn't have the courage, I think, to face it, or she was so scared about failing the people that she was going to teach that she couldn't do it. So what would be your advice for those people who are really talented, like have everybody telling them like hey, you are good enough, but they do not believe it?
I know that's a tough one, because I sometimes still do that quite a bit. I do sometimes sit back and go, oh no, it's like, what made you think you could do this? And I know this is a terrible thing to say, but the only way that I could get through it was to pretty much pretend that I was somebody that could do it. It's a weird way to do it, but if you're very nervous about doing something for the first time, I always find that it's really good to tell yourself that you can be that person that can do it. Be that person. Be the one who could spray paint on the wall, or be that person who can take this class, or who can do this project. And you find that in the end, you will actually believe that you can do it. It's a difficult thing to believe in yourself. It's easier to look at others and believe that they're the ones that are so much better than you. But, if you can sort of put yourself in that position and say, yes, I can be that person for a day. I can do this job, this one job. You'll find that it's so much easier to get through it. And it is not as scary as you think. It always seems so intimidating. It's sort of that thing where you're at the edge of a cliff and you're wondering, am I going to fly or am I going to fall? And it's that last bit of fear before you take that deep breath and take the plunge. And most of the times, a lot of times I always find that it really isn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. And I'm lucky, because I get surrounded by so many supportive coworkers and a lot of good people that I can turn to and talk to. So it really does help to have very good friends and coworkers or people who are doing this project with you as a support. Then you realize you're really a lot better than you think. And mind you, I sound like a hypocrite right now, because trust me, the next project I'm going to start freaking out again. I always do that. I get very intimidated and I start worrying about whether it's going to be good enough. But I'm lucky I have friends who apparently believe in me. But again, I think in the end, it's something you have to do for yourself, and just tell yourself that, yes, I can be that person, at least for this project. And the next one, and the next one, and the next one. But, you know, take a deep breath, tell yourself it's not that bad. Eventually, hopefully, it'll work out.
Yeah, I truly agree with you. I do have like, and I never really thought that it was going to be helpful in the future when I was doing these things in the past. But when I was young and I had this group of friends that we loved this show called Jackass, and there was this guy, Johnny Knoxville, like, "Hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass," and we will do similar stunts like that, like really stupid things, and we were like, "Hi, I'm Rodrigo Flamenco. Welcome to Jackass," and then do something stupid, and now with all of this, it's like whenever I've faced that kind of things that scare me. It's just that feeling like, "Hi, I'm Rodrigo Flamenco, welcome to Jackass," and then go do that thing and see how it works. And sometimes it fails, but sometimes, like, for example, this podcast pretty much was born from the same feeling, like, and I just keep doing it, and then it was like, oh, what will happen if I try to contact an Oscar winner director? Like, let's do it. They say yes, and it's like, wow. And then I do some other things, and they fail. And now with the summit, he was like, I was thinking about it like for a couple of days, and in the beginning I was, I'm going to do this small thing, 20 interviews, but then it's like, but there have been other people who have done more. Like, it's like, okay, let's aim for 90 and see what happens, and that's the same feeling.
No, I completely empathize and sympathize with you, because I definitely don't consider myself the most courageous or confident person, but it really does help if I can sort of believe in that, at least for a bit, to believe that I can do it, at least for this project. I always tell myself, it's sort of like, you know, when you sort of put a carrot in front, dangling a carrot in front of you, go, you can do this, just this one project, you can do this, and eventually you tell yourself long enough, and you find that it really isn't as bad as you think it is, and hope for the best.
Yeah, definitely it is. Especially this industry, I think, for example, and this happens especially in my country, I think is maybe a thing in Latin American countries, but I think the news, generally speaking, are doing like a pretty bad job, because they are always showing this horrible side, because they have this metric saying that if people get angry, they share more the news and things like that. And I talk with artists here, and they think that if they go to the US and to try to get into the industry, they are going to find racism and things like that. It's like, I have never found anything like that into this industry. Like, I have only found help and support, and never had a bad experience. Like, I had some guys telling me no because they were busy. I had some other guys telling me no because they were too shy to do an interview or to do something else. Like, but I never had like a really bad experience like that, and I tell them that, like, look, like, this is like one of the kindest industries that there are in the world. Like, you're really lucky. Like, you're only going to find support. Like, if you write these people, they are going to give you their advice, going to give you their hand, and if you use it really well, and if you don't mess up that opportunity, like, they are going to give you more, and it's amazing. But they still don't believe it. Some of them don't really believe it. They think that I'm lying to them, or I'm just trying to be kind to them, or I don't know. But it's crazy, because, like, again, like, I think this is the part where I don't like about how I think this is the bad part of the internet, that it made this company so exasperated to try to get some ratings, that they have gone into this path of just showing how horrible the things are happening, when this is just a very small percentage of the things that are happening in the world, and most of it is really good. And I think we live in the best era of mankind, and not many people are able to see it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's always easy because they always push forward the bad things. You know, you're bound to look at a car crash before you look at a flower on the road. And they always sort of emphasize all that. But what I love so much about our industry is that we could take that and turn it into something beautiful and share it with other people and show them that there is so much more than, you know, than the pessimism and the unhappiness and the anger, you know, that's spread around the world. I mean, coming from a foreigner, mind you, I understand, because I was so hesitant about going forward because I wasn't sure how I would be accepted. And all I've ever found was acceptance and warm, welcoming people. I have not had, so far at least, I've not had a bad experience with, you know, the people that I've met, especially at CTN. And it's only encouraged me further. And it makes you want to take part, to contribute back, to give back to everybody, because that joy just goes all around. And you can only feel nothing but, you know, but the love and the support from your fellow artists, from your friends, whether it's a new project or something that you're afraid to try, or talking to people. I think it's been nothing but wonderful. So I know that it's easy to fall into the pessimism, because I've definitely been in all those dark spaces where it's been a toxic work environment and unhappy coworkers, and you know, and a work that you're not happy with. And I now can look back on that and see that as a positive experience, because now I can share that with other people and tell them that yes, there will be bad times, but it won't last forever, and you can find better things. It's just, you just have to take that one little step forward, that's all. And you're just going to find that there's a whole magnificent world of wonderful people, talented people who are willing to share their experiences with you, help you, and who want to see you succeed. And that's what I've had for these past few years, and it's been wonderful. I just feel so happy that I'm in this industry, you know, like you.
Yeah, I think we both share the same feeling. Like, and this has become, like, I think that, and you might agree with this, like an unfair advantage of us, because at least for me, like, if I really take a look into my life and I go like, okay, if things had gone as they had supposed to go, like I should be in a call center in a really that depressing environment, probably I would have taken my life right now, because I wasn't able to support it. And now I'm talking with these guys who are like Oscar winners and Emmy Award winners and getting their support, and all these people who have made the cartoons and animations that I love, and they are giving me all their help. And when I meet them, like, I'm really, really happy, like, from the very deep core of my heart. Like, it's like this is nothing short of a miracle. Like, I shouldn't be here, but I'm here. Like, it's crazy. And I think that's one of the things that is maybe an unfair advantage of us, because we have that other point to compare to this one.
Yes. No, and it's good too, because then, you know, when other people have faced that, and I find that a lot of people also are afraid to share the bad experiences, which shouldn't be the case. You should share the bad experiences, you know. No, but I mean, you may look at an artist and go, wow, you know, their path looks so easy. They went from school and they went to Disney or whatever, and everything is beautiful and everybody loves them. And it's so easy to see nothing but, you know, the bright, shiny bit in the front. And you forget that, you know, for all you know, they've suffered too. They must have gone through something horrible. And you know, it's easy for you to want to hide that ugly side away because you think people will judge you. But it shouldn't be the case. I think it's good to share the bad parts, the ugly parts, the parts where you felt you were at your lowest and you were not happy with yourself and you felt like giving up, because it encourages people. It's something that we can share, and it can only make us stronger. And it's something that, you know, you would never want anyone else to face because you've been through it yourself. And you can empathize, and rather than look at it and, you know, with disdain or with judgment, you look at it with great empathy. So I think it's wonderful too. It's sad that you had to go through it, but at the same time, it's only made you stronger, I'm very sure. and that
Yeah.
much better in what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Again, like because I see now people, friends who have way more talented than me, way more smarter than me, and they could be doing much better than me if they really tried, but uh, they pretty much break up because of the, I don't know, the pressure, the stress. They have this idea that they want to live up, and they cannot go against the bad feelings that they have, even though they are lying. Like this, it is a false idea. It's not real. Like it's only in their head, but they cannot go against it. And it's like, and I go for me like, that's nothing. Like there is way worse things like that. And I think that the reason why somebody like me who was failing all their classes and pretty much never finished college and was doing all these stupid things that most people wouldn't do, like, hey, Rodrigo Flamenco, welcome to Jackass again, and people tell me like, no, like you're really smart. It's like, no. I'm stupid enough to do the things that most people wouldn't dare to do, and that's how I get things done. But yeah, it's true.
It's great. I mean, why not? You never know until you try, and I pretty much feel that that's how my workflow has been going for the past few years. I've tried to just anything that I thought was interesting that I hadn't tried before. I went, why not? I could try this, couldn't I? What's the worst that could happen? I mean, other than the fact maybe you might get a not so satisfied client, which is obviously not something that you want, but you're going to do your best. And if you just take the plunge. And I so far I've not regretted the choices, the experiences that I've had, good and bad, because either way, from a failure or a success, you're going to learn something, and that can only just add value to your life, and more that you can share or more that you can learn from it. I think it's fantastic. Either way.
And if you met a person, like say a young driven student who has an amazing talent and is about to enter, let's call it the real world, what advice would you give to that person? Let's say if they wanted to follow a similar path as you did, and what advice should they ignore?
I would say be sincere, be honest, be true to yourself. I know that's very cliche, but a lot of times, or at least from the younger folk that I've noticed, some of them think that you have to put on this persona, to get that job at at Sony or at Disney. I have to be cool. And you really don't have to. A lot of people are going to see right through it. Be sincere, be true to yourself, make the connections that you want to make, connect with people, form relationships, make friends. No man is an island. And be kind to both yourself and your fellow artists for artists. Support each other. And that's only going to make you a better artist as time goes on. So, and just be honest. There's no need to put on a front. There's no need to try to be cool. In the end, you're going to find that even your heroes, or myself, definitely, I'm an awkward turtle. If anything, I'm the most awkward, spazzy person you could meet. Anyone at CTN will tell you that. And it's okay, because that's who we are. We're geeky, nerdy, and quirky, and we love all these silly things. We can talk about cartoons for hours and fandoms for hours, and that's just who we are. So I personally believe you should just be true to yourself. Just be you. And
on the advice that they should ignore, something that I forgot to mention, but I think it's important. When they told you in the job that you hate that you will never had it as good as it was there. That was something that also I was told when I was in the horrible job that I had.
Don't take that advice. Nobody knows you.
Yeah, and here's the crazy thing that I figured out later after that they had an advertising agency working ads internally of that company, like posting these images like everywhere and doing like graphic design for this kind of things, like this is the best place in the country, like you won't find anything else out there that is good as this. It's like, if this was true, they wouldn't need these ads.
Yeah, no, it's true. Look, nobody knows you better than you. Nobody does. And you know, as much, I mean, because I was so young and naive at the time, but really, who are they to tell you what to do and what not to do? Okay, so one thing I would say in terms of advice, I know it's okay to take criticism, good constructive criticism, but if somebody's going to tell you something that's completely harsh and completely unhelpful to you, that will not improve you as an artist or as a professional in any capacity, whether you're an animator or a 3D modeler or a sculptor, I'm sorry, but you can just ignore that. Because telling someone that they're no good does nothing but make somebody feel unhappy and sad, and that doesn't contribute anything to this industry. So one thing I will say is, you know what, if they're going to be mean about it, let them be mean. You will find so many other wonderful people who will believe in you and who love your work, and at least try to learn to love yourself. I know that's a weird thing to say because I'm definitely world's #1 hypocrite in that area. But you know what? Nobody knows you better than you, as much as you like not to think so. I believe that as an artist, we should know ourselves at least. So yeah, ignore that. That really doesn't help at all if they want to be mean.
Yeah, there is this concept of white lies, that when you lie to make somebody else feel better, because it's not like a really important lie, but it's maybe just like a kind of tweak of reality. But I learned that also there is this thing called the black truth, that is when somebody gives you something that is true, but it gives you it gives it to you in a way that they seek to destroy you, they seek to make you to do you harm with that truth. And here's the tricky part of that, like there is still a piece of truth there, and whenever possible, if you are strong enough, like you should try to see what's true and take it to your heart and pretty much improve that. But also you should be able to kind of take aside all the other crap, all the bad intention, like the horrible intention of saying that. Like,
it's true. No, it is. And it takes time to be able to sift through the information that you're going to get, especially if you're doing things like portfolio reviews or asking people for feedback. It does take time to sort of sift through or to decide which you think will help you the most. And just deciding that, you know, maybe this, especially if it's a technical thing, you know, maybe, you know, I need to work on my perspective or something, that's fine. But again, if they're just going to be nasty and just tell you outright that this sucks, well, obviously that's not going to help you in any way. I don't know how you're going to improve from a comment like this is horrible. So it does take time to sift through all the information and to decide what's going to benefit you the most as a professional. It really does.
Yeah, and when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or pretty much crazy in the head, what do you do to get back to your center and pretty much to that same place to go back to work again?
That's easy. Then I go straight to my other love, which is animals. I have 2 dogs right now whom I love to death, and I will spend time with them, or I would go to the aquarium, I go to the zoo, I go back to the zoo, just to get out of my head and spend some time away from the work at the very least, and or I watch my favorite cartoons again, my favorite films, just to remind myself that this is why I'm doing it, and it sort of brings that joy back. And you know, to be surrounded by loving friends and loving family helps as well, to remind you that there is so much more than what's in front of you, whether it's on your screen or on your drawing board. So I do that. I will take a long walk to the aquarium and just spend hours staring at the fish, or go to the zoo and try and reconnect with the animals and see whether they remember me after all these years. things like that. I love doing that and just spending time away from it and then come back refreshed.
Yeah, I think that this is a key point in many artists, that uh, many do not take the time to disconnect with this, and this can become crazy because it's pretty much just in your head. So you need to
Yes.
get out of here from time to time.
Of course. I mean, especially when we work on projects for long hours and we forget that we're living in our heads. And I call this, and everybody who knows me knows this, I call it my cave troll mode, where I stay within my little cave and I don't emerge. And when I finally do, I forget how to be human, because I've just sort of been so engrossed in that project for so long. And I forget that there was an outside world and nobody hears from me for days. And and then you come out completely disoriented and squinting at the sunlight. Yeah, that's me. But so I understand the importance of needing to get out of your head, because otherwise you're just spending hours just turning into this funny little creature that does not leave the den, and just keeps drinking tons of coffee and eating tons of things that are not good for you. So it's good to get out of that, and having dogs does help, because they need to be walked and they need to be fed and they need your attention. So having my big fluffy thing come in and sort of dump the leash in my lap really helps get me away from the computer. It really does.
Yeah, I went after graphic design. I went a little bit into system engineering, even though I never worked
Wow.
into developing and coding and anything like that. I was good at it, but I saw friends who were like really social, really extroverted, like had all these amazing social skills, go into coding, and again, like you just say, like the cave troll mode.
The cave
and
troll mode.
and the coding is something even harder on that, I think, because it's just like logical thinking. It's just what
It's a
goes
very
before that is,
technical,
yeah,
yes.
it is a very cold thinking kind of work. And if you keep
Mhm.
doing that for hours on an end, uh, they come out and you see them like their social skills have completely deteriorated. And we are talking like the best social butterflies that I ever known come into coding and then come out with like these kind of creepy guys and socializing. And I had a friend who pretty much he does kind of these things where he goes 3 months into coding and then after that he tries to get away with it, and you notice that his skills have deteriorated, and then pretty much he spends another 3 months trying to get back his social skills and then go back into coding and social skills and so on.
Yeah, no, I understand. I used to work at a game studio, and we used to have this joke that you can find the programmers, they're in the dark part of the office. There's just this, it's like the Lion King. There's the Shadowlands. That's where the engineers are. And don't make any sudden movements, no bright lights, and don't, for goodness sakes, don't try to talk to them because they're just going to freak out. So I understand that, and it's the same with me. If I get stuck in a project for too long and I forget that there's an outside world, uh, I almost completely forget how to be human, and it takes time for me to sort of reintroduce myself into civilization. But there you go. So it really does help to get away and to be reminded that there is life beyond the work. It's not easy, but it's good to have a reminder for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Also, and pretty much this is related to what you talked us before, but maybe there is something else. Has there ever been like a failure or an apparent failure that has set you up for success in the future? Well, you told us about the experience that you had
Yeah.
living the work and now get that experience getting into this, but is there another one, or do you want to kind of maybe go deeper onto the experience?
Sure. Obviously, that was the big one that I always say, that set me off on this path. in the first place, because you know, I was doing so much work thinking that I was going to be getting somewhere. And, you know, we were doing projects for the bigger companies like, you know, Disney Channel Junior, Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon. And I kept thinking that this was the only place that I could where my skill set made a difference. And to be told on an almost daily basis that the work was not good enough, that I was told things like, I can't believe you went to school for this, and are you sure you want to be an artist? Are you sure there isn't something else you want to do? I had comments like that every day. And so that, and to tell people that I quit was also not a very nice thing, because, you know, you come out of school and everyone's got jobs, and all of a sudden you are that one person that quit the job. And you know, especially where in Singapore, where it's always so important to have that career, you know, it was not to me, it felt like the world's biggest failure. I thought, oh my goodness, this is it. I am never going to do animation ever again. Everything that I thought that I wanted to do is just gone. And, you know, from there, it's not as if I haven't had other failures. A lot of times, either the jobs didn't work out, or there was another company I joined for maybe a couple of months and they closed. And every time that happens, I keep thinking, oh goodness, there's another door that closes. There's another one that ended. And, you know, I'm going to have to explain this to everybody when they ask you, so how's work? And, you know, you don't want to be that one person that's going, well, yeah, they closed down and I'm not doing anything right now. You know, and, but it's okay. I've had to learn that it's okay to say that didn't go through, and that it's okay to say that, no, I did not enjoy what I was doing, and that that there's nothing from it that I want to show anybody. It's okay. You know, I didn't like the work, or the people were horrible, or whatever. Your employers were nasty. And, you know, everybody else, you worry that everybody else would say, oh, you know, she's obviously not doing very well, or obviously her art's not doing so good because she's landing in positions like this. And the first thing that most people want to do, and myself, especially in the beginning, was I wanted to withdraw. But, you know, from these failures and from these awful people, you can only learn that to move forward, to just, you know, shrug it off. It was awful. You know, it's like, it feels like a heavy cloak that was sitting on my shoulders. All I had to do was shrug it off and move on. And you find that there will be another adventure waiting for you, and another project, and more wonderful people to meet. And, you know, it's okay to say that, yeah, it didn't work, or yeah, that was awful. It's okay. It really is. I don't think people really would judge you for it, because most other people would have had the same thing happen to them. So yeah, I would look back on those 2 years all the time and just remember that I would never want to put myself in that situation ever again. I've learned that I have limitations. I will not take verbal abuse anymore. I will not work hours to the point where I get sick. Or I will not, you know, work with people who want to create this awful toxic environment where nobody is happy. You know, now I get to say I've learned from that. I've looked back on it, and I never want to do that ever again. And I will just move on. So that's pretty much, yeah, that's what I learned from my failures. It's okay to say that, yeah, it didn't work out. Just move on. There will be something better.
Yeah, I think especially when we are young, I think we put a lot of pressure on what other thinks about us and what will they think and all this stuff. And there is this quote from, I think it was Winston Churchill, who said, like, when you're young, you care about everybody else's opinion. When you're an adult, you stop caring about other people's opinion. And when you're old, you realize that they never were thinking about you anyway. So, and this is something that a mentor of mine advised, to go into elderly house and talk to the people there, and not the grumpy ones, right? But try to talk with the happy ones, and ask them about the things that they thought they were so important, that didn't ended up being important at all. Like things that
Yes,
we got
yes.
so crazy that thinking, oh, like this is like for that, and this is like the whole world, and in the end it was like, no, this didn't matter. And then asked them about the things that truly matter and the things that they regretted, and you will find out pretty quick that old people truly do not give a damn about most of things. Like they truly
Yeah.
don't, but it's because they have truly learned to like if they have grown up well, like they have learned to value the things that truly matter. And you will find out that most of the things that we worry about, like they truly don't matter. Like
Yes, it's true.
the very simple things are the most important ones. And as you say, like this fear of what everybody will say, that they will think I'm a failure, like that is a big one that really doesn't matter. Like really
Yeah, it
doesn't matter
really
at all.
doesn't. You know, you, especially when you're younger and you think, and you, for some reason, you think the whole world is looking at you. You know, you feel like that one awkward protagonist in a comedy movie, and everyone is just watching you and laughing at you. You can hear this laugh track happening in the background. You're going, oh my God, every single move I make is going to be awful, and I'm going to fall in a mud, in a mud puddle, and fall down a manhole, and everyone's going to have a good laugh at me. And eventually you realize nobody really is watching. Nobody really cares. I mean, at least from this standpoint, I don't think so. Nobody's really. I really don't think people's opinions in that sense matter anymore. What matters is that you're happy with what you're doing, and people can see that. People can see that you're confident in the work that you're putting out, that you're happy with your work, and of course it's going to be reflected in your art or in whatever that you do. And that's what will get you the right attention. That's what will get people noticing you, is when you are, you're just happy with what you're doing and happy with the work that you produce. It's going to show. And that's really when, you will get the clients that you want or the calls that you want. And it takes a while, but I understand. It's daunting in the beginning. Just believe everyone is staring at you at first.
Yeah, but it's not. And if anybody's listening here who cares a lot about what they think about you, like nobody's thinking anything about you, and it really doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter.
Unless you have done something truly horrible, that
Yeah, I mean,
that's another thing. But generally speaking, if you, like nobody is dedicating their life to criticize your art or what you're doing.
No. I mean, and look, there's that joke where everyone's a critic. Everyone's bound to have something to say. But in the end, as long as you are satisfied with the work that you're doing, and you know that the people that you work for appreciate what you do, and they will let you know that. I've had nothing but wonderful, so far, wonderful clients and employers who've been giving me wonderful feedback. And as much as it at first it's difficult to believe, because you're sort of waiting for the moment when they realize that you're really not that good. I like to quote Neil Gaiman on this. He says his wife calls it the fraud police, where they're going to come knocking at your door and tell you, yep, the jig is up. It turns out that you suck, and we found out, and you're going to fraud jail. That does not exist. It really doesn't. It's all in the mind. So it happens. It's okay. We're all sort of self-conscious in our way. We're artists. We can't help it. We feel too deeply.
Pretty much. I'm going to ask you, like, this is a very difficult question for everybody, but I really love it, because sometimes really good, amazing answers come from this.
Sure.
Let's say you wake up tomorrow and nobody knows about you. Like, nobody knows who you are, but you don't have any of your connections.
Okay.
But you have all your knowledge, all your skills, obviously a place to live, and all your tools, and you have $500 in your pocket. What do you do to get back to this position, professionally speaking, as soon as possible?
As soon as possible. Let's see. Well, I would definitely try to cobble as much artwork together as I could, for sure, and try and put together something not as quite rinky-dink as I had when I was in WonderCon, hopefully better, since I have my knowledge. And yeah, just go back out there, do what I did before, which is to just put everything in a bag, go to all the conventions that $500 could probably just about afford me CTN, to go back there and talk to people and go back to all those crazy portfolio reviews and talk to all those people again and just get my work out there as much as possible. And there's another thing which I should do, which I'm very bad at, and that's the social media. You know, to post as much work as possible and get that attention that I'm supposed to have. Yeah, and just basically go around and do the what I like to call the shoe shiner salesman. Go from door to door and knock and, hello, this is what I have. Do you like it? I can sell it to you, and do the whole song and dance again. I will not like it, but I will do it. And hopefully just get back all the connections and remake all the relations that I've had with my different clients. Hopefully, although now that I've had this knowledge, then wouldn't that mean that I could go back to talk to the same people? They might not know me, but maybe this time I won't come off as awkward. I might come across a bit smoother. I don't know. It might not be a good thing. It might be a good thing. I have no idea. But absolutely, go back out there and just do it all again. All that hard work. It's the only thing I can think of, quite honestly.
And you have a book coming that you have been working for the last 2 years about the Chinese Zodiac. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. So when I first tabled or was an exhibitor at CTN, I did a collaboration with my table mate, Heather Rose. And it's because we were trying to do something that we were good at, and I love animals. So I thought, well, I want to do something about animals. And something that was important to me and is important to me up to this day is the Chinese Zodiac, because it's something that a lot of people I find are interested in from all the different cultures, because it can pertain to anyone. And it's interesting because you get all these facts depending on your different zodiac type. You could be a snake, you could be a horse, you could be like me. I am a tiger, and that's very important to me. And you will find that you have all these different characteristics. And what's funny is across the board, most people have very similar characteristics, or it changes again according. The Chinese calendar gets very complicated, because then it depends on the time of day and the month that you were born in, and that again can change the personality of your zodiac. So I would love to come up with a book that has all this fun little information that people can read. Something short, concise, that's easy to read. If you find any of the other Chinese Zodiac books out there, they're very long and winding, and most people get intimidated by it. But I want to put something together that is fun to look at and fun to read, that hopefully people will enjoy looking at, because I'm interpreting these Chinese Zodiacs the way I see them. So they're not just purely from a Chinese standpoint, because I do have a lot of Western influences. So, hopefully it'll be a different take on it. And I would love to finally get that done. It's been in the works for 2 years. And I keep saying that I'm going to get it done, and I never do, because I keep getting busy and it just sits there and sits there and sits there. So it's been incubating for a long time. So hopefully I can get that done this year. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Let me know when that comes out. I definitely buy it.
Oh, I will. I definitely will.
Is there any advice that we haven't talked to this interview, or any topic that we haven't talked yet that you consider that is really important that you would like to speak about?
I'm not so sure about what we haven't spoken about. I feel like I've spoken for hours. I hope I haven't been rambling. But all I can say at the end of this is, I hope whoever is listening to this, whether you are fresh out of school, going to school, thinking about it, or maybe you've even been down the same road as me. I just hope whoever it is, you don't lose hope that whatever bad things come your way, to never lose hope, to always be hopeful and always look at things with a very optimistic eye. It's not easy, I know, because I can be very cynical when it comes to myself, and very critical. I guess in the end, it's really just about enjoying yourself too. Just being happy, enjoy yourself. You don't want to look back on it after all these years and go, I had a lousy time with art. You just want to be happy about it. And and try new things. Like like last year I made a puppet, of all things. And her name is Bryn. And she was a terror to make in the beginning, but I got her done. Oh, actually, let's see. And have her right here.
Nice.
Yeah. So, why not? I've never.
Were you with Bryn in CTN last year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I definitely saw you like from afar.
Yeah, I made her as an impulse thing. I joined a children's parade, and I thought, well, they needed puppets, but the puppet kit that they gave us was very, very simple. It had a styrofoam cup, a styrofoam ball, and a stick, and you were supposed to just sort of stick the stick through the ball and the cup and draw a face on it. And me being me went, no, I can do better than that. I'm sure I can. And I struggled with this thing for 3 weeks, and I created Bryn. So you know what? It's something you've never done it before, but I did, and I brought her all the way with me from Singapore to LA through through all that security and everything, which was a nightmare. Had to prove that she wasn't a living animal, and yeah, I made it through, and I hope to do something with her someday too. I don't know what yet, but everyone seems to like it, so hopefully I'll do something with that. But yeah, just try everything. Why not? You never know what you're going to come up with.
Yeah, I think it looks amazing. Like again, I
Thank
saw
you.
it from afar. It was my first time being an exhibitor in CTN, so it was way crazier than I expected. Like to be
Isn't
honest,
it?
yeah, I thought that I was going to have more time to talk with the other exhibitors, but no.
No. Yeah, that's one thing you learn from CTN. One thing that I loved about being an attendee was that I could go around a lot more. And then when I started exhibiting, I found that I had almost no time. So I had to start picking times and places where I could run away from my booth and talk to people. And even then, I couldn't get to everybody. So I wish they gave us more time. Maybe after, they can call it exhibitor after hours, just to give us some time to go around and just see each other. I don't know. I wish they gave us more time, but it's fantastic that you finally got that that you exhibited with us. Welcome to the madness that is CTN. It's fantastic, and you get to meet so many people.
Yeah, and to add it to like the difficulty level, I was with my team there, and most of them didn't speak English, so I had to be like the translator.
The translator.
Yeah, and I had one other guy who was supposed to help with that, but he kept like go like it was his first time in CTN, so I don't blame him. Like his first time, seeing an event like that, and the first time that we went just attendees, like we went totally crazy. It was totally overwhelming. So I don't blame him, but yeah, he will go like to see I'm just going to see some artists, and then he will disappear for 3 hours.
And then
it's like, yeah. so
and then
that
you're
made
left
it
with
hard
the
on me.
job. You're
Yeah,
left with the job as translator. Oh, it's okay. I mean, I'm sure they were very grateful to have you there, because I'm sure it must have been intimidating to be somewhere where you don't quite speak the language, and dependent on this one person to do all that for them. So kudos to you.
Yeah, in the beginning, I left them like to talk with the artists to try to measure their level, but again, it was also the first time for another couple of team members that were with us. And when they finally see like the biggest artists that, that they admire, like pretty much
Yeah.
they choke up. Like they were trying to speak something and nothing was coming out of their mouths. And it was like, okay, the nervousness level is way above what I expected. So that's when I enter like, oh, sorry, like he or
You
she
get to
really
be the
admires
voice.
you.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. I wish I had that when I first started, because I like I said, I'm awkward as all get out, and I get nervous. And the first thing that happens when I'm nervous is that either I blab or I babble and I don't know what comes out of my mouth, and I don't know if I made any sense. And you know, especially when you meet people that you admire, and you suddenly go, oh no, I don't want to be a fangirl. It's like when I met Tom Moore all those years ago, and I went, oh no, I love Secret of Kells, but how do I tell him without sounding like a complete, you know, like a complete fangirl? And you go, calm down, it's okay. And I was lucky I had a friend who introduced us, because otherwise the poor man would have had to deal with just this overwhelming, you know, amount of fangirl that came in this Nicola-shaped body. And I was so glad for the intervention, because I don't know what I would have said or what I would have done. So thankful for that. So I understand how overwhelming it can be, and I'm glad that you were there for them. I wish I had more of that. Next time, maybe you can help me. You can be my translator.
Definitely. One last question that I would like to
Sure.
ask you, since you are an introvert, and I am a hardcore introvert as well. I just learned strategies on how to socialize, and pretty much became like kind of a mixture. I see men, and this is a topic that comes out from many of my friends who are introverts as well, who they say things like, "Oh no, but socializing with people tires me and depletes my energy," and something that I tell them, because I know that I know for sure that they haven't had this experience, is like, no, like I was like that as well. And what I have found out was, if I am with people who are really amazing, like I get energized. And of course, if you put me with people with let's call it low frequency, yeah, that tires me. But if I'm with amazing people who are striving to be better, who are in their life mission, that is a whole different experience as an introvert. Like, and I found out that like I keep my very selected group, which is people that charges me of energy, and yeah, I keep doing these kind of things because this is what fills me. But most introverts, I think, they haven't experienced that. They haven't met, they haven't been in a circle of people who are like everybody in their life mission, and everybody supporting itself, and everybody trying to get out the best of each one of us. Like, they haven't been in that environment. So what will be your advice to really hardcore introverted people to try to go out and take the risk?
For me, personally, it was to find your tribe. Find the people who, you know, that love what you do and who love what they do, especially if they have similar interests. It really helps. I find, especially me, because I'm such a geek, it helps to find geeks of my kind where we can talk about, you know, we can talk about art, we can talk about cartoons, and talk about all sorts of things that we love. And I find that that really makes it easier, because then you have something in common to talk about. And, you know, you're not just standing there, you know, just pulling out empty words. It's something that you know yourself and that you love and that you're passionate about. And it helps to have, you know, to find people of a similar vein. That's why I loved CTN, because I found that it was okay. Everyone was just as much of a geek and a fan as I was. And it pulls another side of me out that wants to talk and wants to share and is not afraid to talk about things that I usually would not to even other people, of whether it's about fears, about my fears in the industry, or worries, or problems that I have. And you will find that these are people who are willing to help you. So for me, it really helps if you find people who are like you, or at least in terms of, you know, the industry, find people that you look up to, that you're happy to be around, and you can be as geeky and fanny as ever that you want, and just enjoy yourself. That helps. That really helps for me.
Yeah, definitely. So I also see that you are working in a project with Nic Gregory, which
Yes,
I have
I
interviewed in the
am.
past, and I think that I met him in CTN last year, and he was amazing. So I'm kind of
He's the
excited
best.
to ask you a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. So I met Nic Gregory the first time, I think that was during the Alice in Wonderland show that was curated by Casey Robin and Alicia Gibson. And I loved his work. He did this gorgeous piece. And I think that was the first time I met him. And we sort of became friends. And one of the funny things we noticed is he's called Nick. I'm Nick. And we looked at each other and went, well, you do amazing backgrounds. And he goes, yeah, and you like to do character work. Why have we not done anything together? You know, we've already got this running gag going where we tell everyone at CTN that we're identical twins. You know, it's just, we look exactly the same. How can nobody see that? You know, we're twins. So obviously as twins, we have to do something together. So we have come up with something. It's in the works. We're very excited. It's called the Nictionary, because we're corny like that. And, you know, we're called, or also known as Project Nic. But it's the Nictionary, and we can't divulge too much yet. But all I will tell you is that think of anything to do with the word Nick, and chances are we've got something planned for you in that vein. I'm looking forward to it. He's already started. I've already started. It's just that we've gotten so busy that we're still waiting to pull something together, and we're looking forward to this new year being the year that it's, you know, the birth of the Nictionary. And it will make you probably groan in absolute dismay at how corny it is, but it will be wonderful art because Nick is fantastic. I'm sure you've seen his work. He is amazing. I have been a fan of his for forever, and to be able to do this with him just makes me the happiest person on this planet. So I'm super excited, and I hope he's super excited too. I know he gets very busy, but I'm excited to see the birth of this Nic project, and hopefully everybody else will too.
Also, a shout to Casey Robin out there. She's amazing. I also
Yes,
had the luck to meet her. But
Casey's the best.
definitely. And yeah, I think Nic Gregory is one of these kind of persons who, when I see everything he has done in his life, is gets me wondering, like, what the hell am I doing with my life?
He is. I swear, he is. You know, just he's a Renaissance man, isn't he? He's done everything. He's been a wrestler. He's done rap. He's done hip hop. And goodness knows what else he's done before he, on the side of being this fantastic artist. But I am a huge admirer of his. He knows that, and much love to Amy as well. She's the best. They're both amazing, and I'm just so happy I got to be a part of this crazy friendship, because I have the best time whenever I see them at CTN, and that's only once a year. So, this is the only time I get to hang out, and I'm excited to be able to do a collaboration with my twin. Hello, twin, you're watching. So I'm excited, and hopefully everyone else will be excited too.
Awesome. Yeah, but hopefully I will see you this year as well in CTN and see everybody else as well.
Yes, please. That'll be great.
Yeah, if I see Bryn walking down the aisles, I know it would be you.
Absolutely. And she might have company. You never know.
Awesome. So hopefully we will see the Nictionary very soon.
Yes.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you here, sharing your experience. I really thank you for taking the time into being here. And again, I know that that you being an introvert, like, being in a podcast is maybe not as easy as other people. So I truly appreciate that, and I give you my thanks from the deep bottom of my heart.
And thank you for talking to me. I mean, from one introvert to another, it really helps.
And if people want to find about you on the internet, what would be the best places to do so?
Okay, so I'm quite bad at it. I promise I will get better, but I've started Instagram. So if you want to find me on Instagram, I'm just Nicola Huang, and one word. You can find me there. I do have a Twitter, and I sort of have a Tumblr, which I haven't touched yet. But another good place to find me, funny enough, is my DeviantArt, which is called Fairy Godfrey at deviantart.com. I got that nickname in France. Don't ask. But that's where I post up a lot of my other things that I like to do, like fan art and my sketches and some of the other works that I don't really put up on other social medias. And but yeah, mostly right now I'm trying out Instagram. I just started last year, and I'm finding all my friends there. So you can find me on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you.
For the people who are listening to us, like if you have enjoyed this interview, please click the like button below. Or if you're watching from the website, share this interview with all your friends. Until next time.